Thank you. Someone gets to explain how the clicker works. Green is go. So welcome all. We're here to talk a little bit about the enterprise. I'm Rick Killpack. I run product strategy for OpenText. All you know who OpenText is, right? Yeah. All right. Hey, we got some in there. So we run a lot of technology, and the reason that they asked me to come up here and talk is because I'm one of those old guys. I've been in the market for a long time, 30 years. Big companies dealing with identity and access problems. And honestly, I love FIDO. I love the technology. And I keep thinking, this is the same problem we solved 30 years ago. Who am I, and how do I trust me, and how do I make it easy on a user, right? We've all been there. But I want to talk today about the enterprise because we have an opportunity, or I have an opportunity to work with a lot of large customers. We also have some partners in the room who we love, right? Who has worked with us closely to make sure that our customers are starting to embrace technology like passwordless, FIDO, and things like that. Now, you've all been in the conference today, and yesterday and the day before, and you heard a couple things. Hey, this is a consumer space. We're trying to get it for the enterprise. There's things that are there. There's things that are not. But I'm here to suggest that the enterprise, both large and small, are looking. So if you look at OpenText, and I bring this up for a reason, we really have a strong portfolio of technology that we run with our customers. This isn't about OpenText, but I think it's important that you realize that we do have, when we deal with application, data privacy, identity and access management, we have a large set of customer base, and this customer base, they're looking at different types of capabilities around, if it's an SMB, if it's consumer, we have millions and millions of users. We've got 11 million that buy things off Best Buy. We have 25,000 partners that sell security to SMB. We have 180 in 180 countries. We deploy our technology ourselves. So we're looking at very large customers, mid-market customers, SMB customers. They all have a lot of the same types of problems. So I want to talk about those now. So password. What are the assumptions? What are the enterprise? Now, is what we're looking at here, I know this is a FIDO conference, but I'm telling you, and you're in the enterprise. You work for some company, right? You know these are problems. And I want to set kind of a level set so you can understand where is FIDO going? How enterprise ready is it? What are customers asking right now? Okay? So where are they investing? Okay, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but they are trying to get a handle on passwords. That's where they are right now, okay? How do I reset passwords? How can I alleviate some of the help desk things? MFA is big, but it's not MFA, it's second factor. Just give me something. I don't care how secure it is. Give me an email OTP. Give me a phone. Now, is that, is as strong as a FIDO where you have a device and a domain control? Of course not. But that's where they're investing to say, we need something stronger than a password. We need to start eliminating some of the password things, so let's federate. You heard that on the last session if you were in here. How do I create single sign-on? And then can I understand privilege? Not only root users, Windows administrators, but things like non-carbon based, service principals, things like that. That's where they're investing. But at the time, I hear over and over again, and I have a global role. I was just in Europe a week or two ago. We met with over 140 customers and partners. And I'm in Asia, and I'm in North America, and the theme is very, very similar. I'm spending way too much money on help desk costs. So I heard FIDO, it's for security. It really comes down to the risk of how can I create a frictionless experience for my end users to identify who they are and prove to me enough that that's who they are to give them access to applications. That's what it's about. And if you don't do it, your help desk costs rise, your compliance costs rise because users are frustrated because they can't get their work done. So there's a lot of things going on around this. Implementing standard authentication. We're working with some customers, and I say we've got partners in the room that's helping us with large organizations that's saying, hey, tell me more about this Windows Hello stuff. Let's look at Windows Hello for Business, because what does that do? I'm not here to promote Microsoft or anything like that, but I will tell you that the enterprises are starting to look at this because they're running Office 365. They're running workspaces, and they're going, wait a minute, I have a laptop, and I have a camera, and I have a fingerprint. or I have a PIN. And that's a very clean and simple way just by provisioning a laptop for someone to authenticate with something they have, which is a face, a finger, or something like that. Now, as you know, when you provision a laptop, you still put a password that they cache in, et cetera, but they're using biometric to allow you to authenticate. Now, Microsoft did an interesting thing, right? They said, okay, they had, standard Windows Hello and then Windows Hello for Business, which is an asynchronous sync with Entra. And they said, if you can get on Entra, we can add a lot of more capabilities for you with Windows Hello. We can add a FIDO connection. We can generate a passkey for you. And we can tie that into Entra so that you have seamless passkey. And then we'll give you some other options around MFA if you do that. Well, our customers are looking at this, okay? And this is an area that they're heading because the idea is, how do I allow users to tell me who they are, whether that's an enterprise user, a consumer, a supply chain, a citizen? How can I make it easy for them to tell where I'm at? And so there's a lot of investigation, but you've already heard in the conference, there's some different challenges you have to deal with when you deal with passwordless, okay? So let's talk about some of those. As we jump into the passwordless market, okay? Passwordless doesn't mean that there isn't a secret. A passkey is a secret, okay? And enterprises are going, how secure is that secret? What device is that secret on? How can I control that? How do I balance that between what a user will accept and what a user won't? And you've heard some of that in the conference today. But when you're dealing with any kind of authentication, you don't get around the fundamental problem. Who am I and how confident am I that you're that person? And then you as a business, the enterprises, make a determination, a risk determination of how hard do they want to make it on the user to authenticate and access. Do they want to make it easy? Well, there's risk of making it easy. You have intruder problems, you have all kinds of help desk costs. Or do I make it harder, which means users are frustrated because they can't log in? So you're hearing things in the conference today, and we're hearing it from the enterprises. Okay, how do I balance security versus agility? I took 2 or 3 questions in the booth today where they're like, well, tell me more about roaming passkeys. I've got 2 devices. I've got a Mac, I've got a Windows, I've got a laptop. But FIDO, is talking about a device tie into a domain. I have multiple domains that they all have their own passkeys, and I have to register to them. How do I handle that agility? Should I turn on roaming? And not everything will allow you to. There's compliance standards out there that says you can't use roaming keys if you do that because you don't have assurance of the device and what's going on. So there's a lot of balance that people are asking around security and agility when you're dealing with the password market. So end user friction, number one thing. So we've got a customer, a very large healthcare customer that's starting to implement passwordless. And it's a healthcare, and their end users, doctors, things like that, are really frustrated because they're saying, wait a minute, you gave me a new dialogue that I have to click OK to accept passkey. I don't want to do that. You've made me click twice instead of once. I refuse to use this technology. I won't do it. I'm going back to my standard. This end user friction is so important to get right and understand because it's your biggest risk. So how do I minimize that? How do I leverage password authentication and federation? I talked to another customer that's running, a federated, they've got, I don't know, hundreds of apps. We do at OpenText. I think we've got 3,000 applications. No, we've got about, 200, 300 applications that are all around a SAML or a federated IDP and authentication. Well, how do I leverage that? And more importantly, what do I do with the other 3,000 applications that are LDAP-based or are web service-based or are mainframes or databases? How do I deal with those that really doesn't understand what FIDO or passwordless is? Should I leverage the extended FIDO capabilities? I chuckle at this one because I've been in the market as you have for a while, or some of you have. And we had the same argument with LDAP. We had the same argument with SAML. We're having the same conversations with FIDO. It's not just about authentication, it's about authorization. Can I provide enough information in that authentication packet to make a decision on how much access I should give an end user? Those are always tightly coupled. So what do we do in LDAP? We added extensions. What do we do in SAML? We added all kinds of things to the data header. What are we doing in FIDO? we now have extended attributes that we can attach to a FIDO or to a passkey or things like that to start to get information. Should we embrace that? Should it be standard? Does authorization fit with authentication? Where does that align? So when we're talking to these large enterprises, and again, it doesn't matter which geographic or which industry, these are top of the mind for them as they look at passwordless. So a couple of considerations, okay? I'm not here representing OpenText, okay? But I do work for OpenText, and I do for a reason. I've been in the market a long time. And I think that there's a strategy that needs to be taken place. And it doesn't matter which identity and access vendor, it doesn't matter which passwordless vendor, you have to start looking at this from a market standpoint. You have to understand that authorization is a critical part of authentication if you want it to come into the enterprise. Why is that important? It's important because you want to make sure that you reduce friction for the end user, or they will not use your system. They'll bypass, they'll use shadow IT, they'll increase your help desk costs, they'll do all kinds of things. You have to remove the friction, and that's more important when you're dealing with consumers and citizens and supply chain. You can tell your employees this is what you're going to do, and in some cases you can enforce that, but I'll argue even those are rare. But you're not going to tell your external users how to use a system. You need to make it very, very easy for them. So the idea is that you put authorization, you ask enough questions up front that you can make decisions on how easy it is for them on the back end. That is where the enterprise and where we're investing and some of the other vendors are investing is, what is the threat and how hard is it to get in? So an example here is I may have logged into a Windows Hello and I have a passkey, or I have a passkey on my device, okay? I can go in with an authorization service and say things like, again, I'm not going to just pick on Microsoft, but if I could go into Entra and I can say, okay, I'm going to read your conditional access policy and I'm going to say, is this a trusted device? Do I know about you? Have you already registered? Do I have enough confidence that I'm going to allow and honor that authentication with that passkey? Okay, sure, okay, I'll let you in with a single sign-on with an RDP session. I'll SAML federate you into Salesforce. I'll give you access to the different applications you need. But that authorization service is going to say, well, you may be a trusted device, but wait a minute, you're coming from an external network. Now, again, what you're balancing how much risk do I want to take on versus how am I going to force my user? Well, if you're coming from an external network, you may want to set some policies that says, okay, on an external for RDP, I'll accept the Windows Hello and you can get in. But for Salesforce, it's got CRM data, it's got customer data. I will federate you, and I'm going to federate you using the passkey, understanding who you are, tie that to federation. We're not going to go through that in the demo. Come talk, or discussion, come talk to us in the booth if you want to know how we do that. But you can use the passkey and you can create a federated connection into Salesforce, but you can also step that up and say, but that's not good enough. I can't trust just that device. I'm going to inject an OTP session, okay? Or a YubiKey session for an Oracle database. Or I'm looking at, okay, fine, you're on an internal network, you're a trusted device, I'm just gonna let you in. The point is that you have to set authorization and make decisions on how critical your data, because as security people, we love to talk about intruder detection and incident, and people are phishing and they're getting our access. But I'm telling you, the biggest risk to every business out there is keeping your business users unproductive. You will lose customers, you will lose business, you will lose end users. You have to remove the friction, and it's your number one risk you're looking at, which is why FIDO is so exciting. It does give us that capability of making it very easy for a user to tell me who you are. If you come by our booth, you will see us run a demo where we're going to grab your phone and say, do you have a passkey on it? Sure. We'll discover that passkey. We will register your phone. You click a QR, boom, your phone is up. Now all of a sudden we can use your phone as a trusted device to authenticate you using smartphone push and other things to mainframe systems, to Linux systems, to LDAP systems, and all you had to do to register was come up and let us discover your device. We've got, I don't know, I've got the folks in the back, we've got 15, 20, 30 passkeys registered in our demo system from customers. Just come up and plug it in. And it works, okay? Is what we did is we removed friction, but we've added additional capabilities by now using that device, something that you have, on top of the passkey that can be used based off of policy to access different systems, okay? Legacy applications. Again, you have to put some kind of authorization in front of that or a gateway system that can read the friction, understand or read the password, read the credential, understand who you are, be able to tie that to an identity management system that then can create single sign-on to the different applications based off your policies. So you have, proxies and things like that that can say, okay, I understand who you are, you've authenticated, I trust you. I need now to map that to an identity management system, and I will form fill your password in the LDAP application. I will put a certificate in the header, and I will give you that single sign-on experience. This is where enterprises are today. They simply want to remove reduction, which is use FIDO, use who you are, convert that to a standard authentication for my legacy applications, but give me a single sign-on experience so my customer doesn't, or my end user doesn't need to understand passwords. So passwordless takes us further than just FIDO. It talks about federation. It talks about injecting passwords customers don't know. It talks about securing service principles. It talks about all of that leveraged off of the frictionless adoption of, getting a passkey on your device. I'm looking at the time. I don't think I've ever done a presentation in 20 minutes. As you can tell, I have lots to say. But I'm going to pause on this slide. We have 6 minutes left. I don't know if there's questions that have come in. That's good. If you have a question or comment, feel free to come up to the mic. Come talk to us. Come look at the demos that we have. We can, whiteboard this out and go into a lot of details. But my main message I want to leave, well, let me ask. Are there any questions in the next 4 or 5 minutes? Shy people. Okay. So I have a question for you. Anyone, so you guys are focused, you came in here to learn about the enterprise. How many of you are really focused on the consumer end of FIDO today? So you are focused on what am I doing in the enterprise? Okay. One more question for you. How many of you are actually looking at using FIDO, implementing whether it's Windows Hello or Entra or Azure? How many of you are implementing that to secure enterprise resources? Anyone looking at that? That's more than I expected to see. Well, looking at was my question. There are a lot of people looking. How many have implemented? We've got 2 or 3. Fantastic. All right, so we're going to end on this note then with these questions. Please come talk to us. We have a lot to share, and I appreciate your time.